focus on one day. They can absolutely write off the past and reset themselves with a 3-0 today. That would push them straight up. It would require a win over the previously undefeated G2, but it all starts here.
That it does. Let's jump on into Champion Select. Griffin on the blue side, Cloud9 on the red. Veigar, the first ban, Pantheon removed as well by Cloud9.
And I want to hone in on some of these mage bottoms as the Syndra is next to hit the ban bench right there. And we heard it from Reaper, going to echo it again. The fact that Sneaky has really been going towards these mages, because the one thing that Griffin really have edges over virtually anyone, maybe save for G2, is their mechanical brute force ability in just 1v1 and 2v2 lanes. And that means that Cloud9 need to be hyper creative about how they're going to shore up that distance between the mechanics of their players.
And there was one facet we were really impressed with Cloud9's prep. Remember, they were on the blue side when these teams met a few days ago. The blind pick Fiora against Sword range of champions. It did a great job until the team as a whole couldn't win with Fiora. This time they're on the red side, and where you find your counter pick and who you give it to will always be scrutinized.
And remember what I said, Renekton Elise was kind of the go-to combination for Cloud9. They tried so many times to get their hands on it, and Griffin have read them like a book. They ban away the Renekton, they priority pick the Elise, and they have so many options for AD solo laners for Sword and Chovy to bring along with this AP jungler.
But the cost is heavy. Kayle has been surrendered. Champion almost permabanned on red side, was gift wrapped and then ignored, but Xayah as an answer. We're seeing Xayah and Kayle fall through the bans. And let's zoom in on one fact. Both these teams in the mid game have not been specifically impressive. Griffin have been able to extend games, but not accelerate them. If the game goes infinite time, you can see a Kai'Sa swooping in with a Kayle ultimate, and that sounds pretty sweet.
But now we're actually going to see Sneaky on a traditional ADC across from the Xayah and the Rakan. That isn't going to be a Kayle that can be flexed into the bottom lane. So, you know, he's throwing down the gauntlet and saying that he can go toe-to-toe with Viper and Lehends.
Yeah, Xayah and Rakan in that bottom lane for Griffin. Galio was picked up here for Cloud9. Could be mid, but of course could be support Galio as well.
You do wonder if they want to pair it with, say, a Jarvan from the jungle, just have that reliable engage. We've seen those engaged duos be played already in this World Championship, and the Galio support and mid have both been flexed.
I agree with you, and I think that's what Griffin should actually look to pinch out, is target that champion pool in the jungle to make sure that you disengage a lot of the initiation tools that Cloud9 could pair with Galio.
And Griffin have, in the past, drafted comps that play around early mid-game. They played some Talon games at Rift Rivals and the else game. I've heavily criticized those games because they've shown no ability to actually snowball through. So they have a very strong core of a draft. It hasn't shown its true colors. We still have the solo laners to lock in. So right now, I don't really have alarm bells on either side, except, wow, Kayle in the late game seems like the sort of thing that might get there because of the reputation currently of these two teams.
Kayle has been pick banned in most of our games throughout the course of Worlds, so if you can get her towards late game, she can have an incredible impact. With the Aurelia and Gangplank bans, Cloud9 pinching out that top lane pool, the Fiora removed as well. Licorice, of course, played that last time these two teams met.
So what's the jungle option going to be? We needed a hard engage. We've talked about the Jarvan. Nocturne definitely fits that bill.
He dives right onto the back line. Team that up with a Galio. Put the Kayle ult on Nocturne as he jumps in. You have a great wombo combo coming out from Cloud9.
It's a strong, reliable wombo combo in terms of getting access, but the people staying in it is less reliable than, say, for example, a Jarvan. When flashes are down, still, it's a golden oldie, something that Griffin have loved to play in the past. It does allow Akali and, say, the Elise, for example, to be on the front foot, and it really feels like battle lines have been drawn here when it comes to who needs to lead the dance in the early game.
Yeah, the dive potential from Cloud9's composition with the Galio, Nocturne, Kai'Sa, and the Kayle ultimate. It's very clear how this wants to execute out in team fights, which means that Viper needs to be on perfect form right now on the Xayah, because everyone is gunning for him.
So what we blind picking is the big thing here, because Sword is taking either Akali or Camille into the top lane. Neither of these are his bread and butter when we think of Sword in his past stint as a starter. His Akali was actually pretty decent the couple of times he's brought it out. The Camille feels like one that could be a little bit more tricky in a skill matchup. The Fiora's not there available for a skill matchup, and Cloud9 are hovering. An old favorite of theirs. They are a Shen top team since the Impact days.
One of the scary things, though, is that there is going to be a break point where Camille can just kind of take over a side lane and take over the game, whether that is Chovy or Sword's Camille, whoever hands it lands into. I'd love to see Chovy pick it up because he is the stronger mechanical player. And yeah, Niski can try to take that Kayle and maybe just wave clear across from him, but Cloud9's composition really relies on being grouped up together. So Griffin had a clear win condition. If everything goes sideways, they can no longer 5v5, rely on Camille in that side lane.
The scary thing about side lane champions, though, Froskuren, is have you considered playing side lane against Nocturne Shen Galio? This comp does one thing well. It swoops in from off screen and catches one person. You need the wards to do that. You need to be very smart against it, but it's not always the most reliable in fights. So this feels very much, if you can start to choke the life out of Griffin, get them to move back, it's going to be hard for them to re-establish connection. But if those long cooldown globals don't find a kill, that's a long lull to their off cooldown.
Well, we've already talked about some of Cloud9's mid-game teamfight woes in the first half of this group stage. We'll see if today they can rectify those issues. It's all on the line here for Cloud9. Their fate in their own hands. They need to win this game. And back onto Summoner's Rift we go for the first game of the day. Group A concludes today. And just to reiterate what I was saying, Cloud9 will want to win this game. If they lose, their destiny is no longer in their own hands.
And I want to go ahead and take a look at the jungle matchup that we have in Tarzan and Svenskeren, specifically on the Elise versus the Nocturne. I was talking to Gilius the other day, and the thing is Nocturne usually has a reputation that he can't really do anything, that he's just there to power farm until level 6, but especially when he has lethal tempo, that's not necessarily true. Elise usually wins a lot of matchups on if she finds you first, if she hits the cocoon, but if she doesn't, against a Nocturne with lethal tempo, if he's within auto attack range of you, come around a blind corner, you walk into him, he can actually just annihilate you. So he actually has a lot more dueling potential than I think most people really realize, and isn't as fragile without that ultimate.
Absolutely agree with you there, Frusker. And I look at these comps here and I feel like it's a lot about true colors, because you can understand the approach that both G2 in their first game against Griffin and C9 here are taking, which is Griffin famous for really not getting much done in the early game, very low kill games, therefore farm it out, get to 6 seems reliable against this team. But I remember the Griffin that people were disappointed not to see at the World Championships last year, the Griffin that went on that massive win streak in spring season, and they were decisive and on point and snowballing games in the early game. So which Griffin we get today could be so important in the context of this group.
And I think that definitely starts with Tarzan and Chovy's performance in particular, how these guys sync up. And when you have an Elise and a Camille, there's a lot of tools to really start that snowball. So Papa, I'm on the same wavelength as you. I actually just want to see that ferocity return to that iteration of Griffin.
Yeah, the old favorite was the Sejuani and the Camille. This time it's the Elise, so an extra skill shot to consider. In the top lane, Sword's going to get early priority pretty casually on the Akali here. Remember, Akali no longer has the mini stun on R, so she has no ability to interrupt the Stand United.
Griffin did make the decision to put Chovy on the Camille in the middle lane, have Sword on the Akali up towards the top side.
I do have a quick question, Papa. If Akali tags Shin and he TPs, can she follow him still?
Yes, she can.
Oh, that's fun.
Trust me, that's already in the back of my mind, Frost.
Let's talk about the lane state here. Chovy's freezing just outside of the turret, and Niski doesn't have necessarily the ability to push this lane. Level 1 Q's not going to do it, so you actually have to give up a lot of lane control. He can't even pick up minions as they die. As this is happening, Tarzan is on the invade. Griffin for now controlling the mid lane scenario and actually taking advantage of an Elise in lane for the first time we've seen, sorry, a Kaelin lane for the first time we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Because trading here actually onto Sword gets him under the tower, but not going to be able to do too much more.
And you can see that Griffin going offensive everywhere in terms of where they're holding the wave, when they're trying to deny CS, because Svenskeren is on this Nocturne as they continue to apply pressure, chasing him out of his jungle.
Chovy's walking in front of the tower and through it to threaten a hook shot onto Svenskeren. That is a lot of pressure onto the Nocturne in the early levels.
Now, I will say that obviously it's not ideal to lose a portion of your jungle like the Wolf Camp, but because Svenskeren did start topside and got access to his Raptors and Krugs.
Oh, we're here.
Tarzan's behind the tower, Chovy looking for the wall dive, lands it, Cocoon's going to follow up, and that is first blood to Griffin.
I was going to say, it's not the end of the world for Svenskeren because he got the 2 most important camps, but it is the end of the world for his mid laner because there is just no assistance and no pressure that he can apply at this point to a 3-man dive.
We're talking about paying attention to the mid lane playing through it. We saw that as Svenskeren gives up the scuttle for now.
At the moment, the 2 solo lanes for Griffin consistently harassing their opponents. Tarzan using the pressure they've generated to get into the jungle to take some of these camps. But Svenskeren will get the Scuttle Crab. Fear coming off. Here comes Sword from the top lane. Licorice on his way to help as well, but he's already down to half HP. There lands the Shuriken. Svenskeren pulls the Spell Shield. Taunt coming out, but Licorice will pay for this with his life. There's no escape. You have to feel the flash won't be used, and he falls for the 2nd kill of the game.
Pretty poor communication there from C9. They should know the 2v2 does not behoove them the moment that the fear tether was repelled. Kali first access, Kali comes in, someone has to die. This time it's Licorice.
And Licorice has to burn his teleport here as well because that wave is in an awful position for him. Sword trying to keep it just outside the tower range, won't be able to manage it too well, but means that there's now no longer that summoner on Licorice. He won't be able to impact the map until he gets his stand united.
So much of this mid lane phase has been beautifully controlled by Chovy freezing outside turret, and Nocturne as a champion has no ability to reset unless he just lane ganks. Here's the replay, trying to stay on the top side because that's the side the Nocturne was on, but turns out Camille has a very easy access range. Lahen's there just in case. Very nicely done. The steal away here from Svenskeren, but feels like they read the situation a little bit late.
Yeah, and there was the confidence for Sven to look for the 1v1, but like you said, it's the 2v2 that was going to be the bigger problem. And then unfortunately, Licorice had to be the sacrificial lamb to get Sven out of that.
So when we come out of this replay, and we've already come through the mid lane a couple of times, you really need Nocturne to come through and help with the resets here. Because for once, a KO really at the whim of the enemy, and you see the trades.
Yeah, Chovy's already level 6. You can see how consistently he just jumps in, trades, walks away. That's all this Camille has to do, and Niski can't even approach the lane. He's running Kleptomancy. He's trying to get as much gold as he can, but he's so far behind already.
And remember, he doesn't have a ranged auto attack till level 6, so for now he really is at the whim of the enemy. Don't think of it as a melee versus melee matchup because of the changes to KO. But that's the reality for now, so priority basically effortlessly in 3 lanes for Griffin. It only matters if they have that next step and can put it to an advantage.
Well, they can definitely do that because it's an Infernal of all things, but it looks like we're actually going to try to attempt another dive or at least a plate pressure gank here as they're pulling both jungler and support again.
As soon as they see that Svenskeren is there, they back away from it, just get the vision control. Lahen's able to roam around a lot because Viper is perfectly fine dealing with this Galio Kai'Sa bottom lane. No longer can you flash taunt on the Galio, means there's not that immediate kill threat coming out.
Viper's also just very good at playing weak side when majority of his team is on the opposite side of the map from him. He times his backs very well. He always bounces his wave. It's those intangibles of his laning phase that make him such a standout player outside of just his mechanical prowess.
Svenskeren spotted one side of the jungle completely warded, so Svenskeren's position here allows Chovy to just take aggressive hookshot trades like he's playing top lane. And speaking of wards, we already saw Tarzan lying in wait. He's jumped over.
Yeah, Tarzan's jumped onto the Scryer's Bloom here. I'm not sure if Svenskeren spotted that out. Assist me pings coming out from Griffin.
Surprise!
And the cocoon, surprise! It's a spider waiting for you in the bush. Svenskeren's going to try and get away, still has his flash, pops the spell shield, trying to get to the blast cone, will escape with a divine judgment, but had to burn a lot to get away.
Yeah, so many cooldowns, the ultimate, the flash, and he just scrapes away from that one, still sitting at level 5 as Griffin are just eating this map alive from Cloud9.
Important note though is that Chovy Flash couldn't get an ult range, so still has a summoner down, and any melee laner who loses their summoner in mid lane can potentially be exploited. 3 of the top earners all on the side of Griffin. Casual 1,400 gold lead here so far, and Cloud9 already just looking at those experience bars and hoping level 6 will roll in, but just like we talk about when a Twisted Fate is in the game, the first round of globals here can allow them to outnumber anywhere. If it doesn't go to plan, you fall in such a deep hole.
You have to feel like that's the play now for Cloud9. If that first paranoia, first stand united doesn't work,
that was
they
the
are
play
just going to fall behind.
The entire time for Cloud9, but they have been so delayed in trying to reach it.
We'll see if they're able to use it, because if they don't manage to find a couple of kills off that first play, they might just fall. Licorice tries to flash there, but Sword underneath the tower. The Akali mechanics coming up trumps there for the Griffin top laner.
And at this point, Cloud9 are just bleeding out in every single lane. They need to figure out very quickly how to get out of these lane phases, because the longer that Griffin keep them in the 1v1s, the 2v2s, they're getting destroyed.
You're going to watch the replay here. Remember, Sword, not known as the mechanical top laner on the squad. Doran, more prized for that, but this is effortlessly clean from their top laner. and take the 2 shots, doesn't fall. And you look at what plan A is for Cloud9, it's a bot lane gank, right? That's very much the case. Taunt Flash, not a thing anymore on the Galio, but some setup there that Nocturne can profit on. His ability to lane gank well known. And as Griffin, you're like, maybe, okay, let's take control. Let's run to Rift Herald, but that gives you the 5v5 that you don't necessarily want to opt into as Griffin when the laning phase is going oh so well.
But the thing is we know what Cloud9 want to do. Cloud9 obviously have their globals. Everyone is looking at this bot lane, and it means Griffin also recognize it. So I should assume that Lehends and Viper will play very safe. Viper also bringing the cleanse and having access to the Zai ultimate, and they probably won't overextend their welcome until they have access to the TPs on Chovy and Sword.
The world's freest Infernal walking over double control ward. The control ward advantage. If you actually look at the Rift, I believe there's at least 4 control wards on the map from the side of Griffin, giving critical information. They can also spot out the respawns and camps. This is a game entirely in their control, and this is the first early game from Griffin we give a big tick to. Now we move to the next quadrant, one where Cloud9 hasn't been able to perform. The mid game is fast approaching. A little bit early to say, though, the Rift Herald only now spawning.
But this is the reason we praise Griffin's early game a lot of the time. They're not a high killer minute team. They're actually one of the lowest in the LCK, but what they do is they use their vision control, they use their control wards to starve you out of your own jungle and use the pressure they have in lanes to let Tarzan work havoc on the map.
And in this tournament, the only elegance really from Griffin has been Chovy's laning phase, which has been obviously top tier. But when they really are firing as a squad, you sit back, and if you have any appreciation on how rotational play and macro play can come together, you just take your hat off to them, and you really appreciate. You sit back and become a fan, whether you're invested in the game or not. Getting to that point is something Griffin has been eluded from since, honestly, playoff spring season hit. So for now, at least, it's a good start, but it can all come unstuck really fast.
Possible setup flank here as we see Svenskeren sitting in the wings. I agree with you, Papa. I think an extended lane phase probably feels pretty good for Griffin. Continue to funnel all of this gold on a lot of different carries that spike very hard on 1 and 2 items.
And as soon as they take the Infernal Drake, what do? They bring their bot lane up towards the top side of the map, they continue their vision control line, and they make C9 face check in. The quickness coming out here, Nisty's going to pop his stopwatch. Paranoia trying to jump on the backline, Svenskeren gets a lot of damage down, but the Blade Core will pull through them. Featherstorm coming out as well, and look at the backline, Sneaky, Divine Judgment trying to survive for the moment, but Chovy and Sword are still putting in work. Niski tries to flash away, just about escapes to live for the moment, but Licorice has been caught off towards the bottom side. Niski will fall, Licorice will fall, C9 will fall. They'll even take one under the towers for good measure. 7-0 to Griffin.
And Griffin just put Cloud9 through the meat grinder right there. They dove in, Cloud9 thought that they had their opportunity. Griffin read them like a book and ripped them apart. That is ample damage on the mid lane tower. That is complete control over the Rift Herald. This is devastating for Cloud9.
And again, when it's a global comp like Cloud9's, those long cooldowns have to be off before anything can happen again. And in the meanwhile, the gold lead is already humongous. We're talking 4,700 gold at 12 minutes. We talked about the first round. That one unfortunately didn't come together. The Rift Herald is picked up, and suddenly we talked about how Cloud9 needed to win this game to keep the fate in their own hands. Feels like even this single game, fate is largely controlled by Griffin.
And in this What's Your Move replay presented by Axe Gaming, we'll see just how sporadic the engage was from C9.
Niski actually used his stasis very early there under no threat, as instantly Lehends just disengaged, and from here was already largely cleanup very early into the replay.
Yeah, it's the fact that the key cooldowns that Cloud9 need didn't find the right targets, and then Griffin were just already at an advantage from their item position, just dove into the backline, traded cooldown for cooldown, and assassinated C9.
Now, there is a good sign on the map. A lot of control wards invested top side, and now you just need to take a deep breath, appreciate where you are as C9, and just try to farm it out, because the next objective is a Mountain Drake. Probably shouldn't be rolling up to that one. You kind of have to seed a lot here and put faith in that next round of engagements. You can see very clearly the cooldowns aren't up, as the Rift Herald is jammed mid by Griffin.
Should be able to take down this mid lane tower pretty easily. All of those plates will go across towards Viper, who's already sitting at an Essence Reaver. And it looks like the Hens is actually going to escort this Herald just for one more charge to chip away at that mid lane tier 2. C9 currently in a 6,000 gold hole. Need to find a way back into this game.
Yeah, this game's going to get accelerated very quickly now. Griffin, with access to the mid lane since that tower fell down, means that they can swing down behind this bottom structure, take it for free. So very quickly, this map's going to start just completely opening it up for the side of Griffin. And that can mean nice things for Cloud9. That means maybe you have the potential that you can find assassination targets with that swoop and scoop that we were talking about, the Shin, the Nocturne, the Kaisa. But that also means that there's so much more gold sitting in Griffin's pocket that even if there's the best case team fight for C9, I don't know if they win it.
But I like your point, because yes, it sounds a bit kind of glass too half full as Sword runs in.
Yeah, Sword's going to get on the blast cone there, just chasing Svenskeren down. Might have to be careful because Zeyzal and Sneaker are still in that top lane, but it's Svenskeren who ends up flashing away.
But until 20 minutes, you can roll 3 globals in bot lane, and there really is no response that's proportional on the map from Griffin. Yes, you'll probably trade down in terms of turret damage, but you lost your ability to choose which are preferential trades when the early game went this so far ahead to Griffin. So the perfect game is on this far. It can definitely be abated if they choose the right side lane play.
Tarzan landing the cocoon onto Licorice. Doesn't get too much damage down, but just the constant threat of a Griffin jungler being right in your lane is very scary here for Cloud9.
It just means that Cloud9 right now are looking to use those 3 ultimates, find someone in a side lane, find a quick hit and run, whereas Griffin need to make sure that if someone is overextended in the 1-3-1, that there's something traded for it. If they decide to go after Chovy because Akali has the Shroud, probably not the greatest target, that they have someone set up to get chip damage on a tower or somehow trade.
It's one of those old adages that can be applied to your family life with your friends. Pick your battles. Do not choose to fight at every corner here as Cloud9, because the early game really puts you in a position where it needs to be the next player's a trade up, or at least an even trade, with Baron spawning in about 4.5 minutes.
Perfect game just still on the cards here with that top lane tower not quite falling. I believe C9 should be able to chip away at it pretty soon. Lehens and Viper up here to defend. But Griffin have basically total control over wherever they want to be right now.
Man, it's not a good day for North American fans. When you're looking at Cloud9, you're like, let's not get perfect game instead of let's win this game. And that kind of feels like the situation that we're in right now.
For Cloud9 to find their spot, work out where they're going to attack. Unfortunately, their vision is quite shallow, and the team hasn't grouped to try to take down Sword, which, of course, is its own type of hell, trying to kill an Akali with Flash up soon in the side lane.
Are you saying that she's...
Slippery.
Slippery? Okay.
I think the difficulty for C9 is all of these lanes are pretty slippery. Like, Azaya is very hard to actually get on top of. A Camille can wall dive away from you. Elise can rappel up. Rakan can jump away. You have to invest a lot of resources into a kill that might still escape you.
We might get one here.
Here we go. Paranoia coming out. They're jumping onto the back line, but there's the rappel up. And you can see Tarzan falls in the middle of them all. Shut down for C9. They find a single kill.
They're on the board. That's the important thing here. And Griffin had all walked over to handshake a fight in an area where there was really no objective to fight around. So that's a sort of misfight from Griffin, where they could have just been spread across the map a bit better. Seeing the TP.
Oh! Blakecourt does a lot of damage there to Svenskeren. The charm coming out. Sneaky's the one caught up in it. Underneath the tower, he will fall. And now the chase is on. Svenskeren with a great shield. He'll fall in the end, though, and Zeyzal follows shortly after. It's a double for Sword. He's 6-0-0 on this Akali.
And it felt pretty good for Cloud9 for, I'm going to say, 15 seconds there before Griffin showed up. Cloud9 didn't even get the tower, now looking in the mid lane.
They know Nisqy doesn't have ult here. The Hextech ultimatum will lock Nisqy in a box, and that box will end up being a coffin. He falls in the mid lane. Tower goes down in the top. Griffin 11-1 up and 9,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, that gold lead is a mountain to climb over right now as Griffin, again, back in total control. Outside of the shutdown gifted to Sneaky from Tarzan, they've run a perfect game so far.
You know it's a bad time where the kill score looks like betting odds. That's not what you want to see, but that's the reality here at the moment. All the individual laners are so strong. C9 chose a draft that was about the global all-in. We saw the all-in find fruit, bear fruit with a single kill, but in walking up to that very low health turret that we thought might be the separator between a perfect game and no, that's actually what takes them down. Replay starts much earlier. This is the good moment for North America.
Yeah, everything looks good here. We finally got it. Again, not only did you kill Tarzan, but you also got the shutdown gold onto Sneaky of all people on that Kaisa. But as you said, Papa, it was the overextension for this tower, thinking that Griffin were going to handshake and just try to trade cross-map. Trigger pulled on TP. We're going in, boys.
And it's one of those things where how strong is Cloud9 after their cooldowns are down? Well, we know the items aren't there, and the reality is very easy cleanup. The teleport from Sword on point. We reset again. Mountain Drake number 2 spawning in a minute 30. A 10,000 gold lead, give or take a couple of hundred pre-20 minutes.
Which means that as soon as that Baron spawns, not only with the Mountain, but also with that gold lead, Griffin are just going to walk up to it and say, you have to come and fight us. And either they take the fight because their ability to turn off of the Baron is so strong with Rakan and Camille. Like, I think Cloud9 have a minute to hoover up as much gold as possible. Otherwise, this game's just going to end on that fight.
The only benefit for Cloud9 is Sneaky is at 2 items now. Ginsu's finished, Manamune stacking up. You do have a Hextech Gunblade complete on Niski, so he is starting to get a little bit of that Chaos strength. He's hit level 11, he's arisen, so he has some more damage in his autos, but it is trying to find as many options for C9 as possible when there aren't that many in the back.
Oh, absolutely, Medic. We can't mince our words. This game is very, very in the advantage of Cloud9, and that almost feels like an understatement. I had 2 varies in there. So that's the issue they're in. For the site, you're correct, of Griffin. So the issue here for Cloud9 is, what do they have? Well, they have teleport down on Sword, so there is the potential to outnumber. That's what they drafted for. They can cross-map, cheat over wards with their globals. That's what they have to put into use. They can't think about what they don't have. They have to zoom in on what they do have.
They also have decent wave clear at this point in the game. Obviously, the dive threat from Griffin is still incredibly strong. The 1v1 threat, is anyone going to help him?
Licorice flashes away. There we go. The hero's entrance from Zeyzal will keep Licorice just that little bit safer. Sword almost jumped back in there, but used the perfect execution to get out of his split.
But there's one of those key cooldowns that Papa keeps alluding to. Now that you don't have the Galley ultimate, that's just another piece that you really needed in kind of the perfect setup for Cloud9 to have a shot in hell at pulling this game back.
It's all about the trio to give Nocturne gap close, damage, CC, and also near invulnerability with the overshield. Right now, one of those pieces is gone, and guess what? It means that Cloud9 need to seed most vision wars, most objectives. They cannot afford to give up Baron. I look at the Drakes and I say this Baron going to be pretty fast.
It's a great look so far for Griffin. Zeyzal trying to get away. The Justice Punch won't allow him to escape, but here comes the paranoia, and maybe C9 have found a fight. Hextech Ultimatum jumping onto the backline. Viper's already killed off Zeyzal, and there's the double. Svenskeren falls as well. Here comes Sword, slicing through C9. Their backline decimated, their team deleted. It's a clean ace for Griffin.
I mean, C9 did find a fight, but it was not the fight that they wanted. Griffin just destroyed them. Now rock up to the Baron. We said this was going to be the go button as soon as it spawned. Cloud9 had to take the gamble. They went for the fight, and they just got deleted from the game.
5,500 damage by Viper on the Xayah. Outrageous damage total here by the AD carry of Griffin. Feels like Griffin have been in the hibernation since spring season. They've woken up, and just like those angry bears, they seem to want to take out some of their frustrations on Cloud9.
And a win here for Griffin sets them up really well for qualifications to the quarterfinals. It means they would have 3 wins, they would have the head-to-head over C9, and it would be very difficult for anyone to catch them.
So initially the team fight starts, it's Lahens that catches out Zeyzal there, and then Cloud9 decide to double down, engage in, but you are walking face first into all of that Xayah damage. Viper has been so on point with his feathers.
Very, very clear picture painted by the replay there. If this is a nature documentary presented without comment, was probably what we would do on that one. Gold lead swells to the better part of 15,000, and it just feels like we're waiting for the closeout here. It's not a mid-game that you can throw with one bad decision, 1, 2, 3, to get it anywhere near parity for C9.
Round 2.
Round 1 didn't go too well, though.
Well, they've only got 1 punch, Medic.
Exactly. Can you suggest a backup option here with the Shen Nocturne Galio comp?
I cannot, but I'm hoping C9 can perhaps work something out, because as you say, they are 15,000 gold in the hole. You have 3 completed items on Viper. Tarzan is sitting with a Rylai's and an Oblivion Orb, Trinity Force and Ravenous Hydra on Chovy. You just look across the board, and any one of those carries being that strong would be very difficult for C9. With all of them being that powerful, it's basically impossible.
I do like the fact that C9 are just playing around their control wards, and they're just trying to find the pick. They know that the only fight that they win is a very unfair one. So try to survive this Baron, try to find a massive numbers advantage. That's the game plan.
Well, right now, Griffin are just forcing in the top lane tower. The inhib tower will fall. They're now looking for the inhibitor. You can see Sword is down towards the bottom side of this, keeping Licorice busy. Here comes the paranoia. The one punch has been thrown by C9, but they really don't have the damage to take down anyone. Griffin, Lehen's still alive. Viper there as well. They just clean them up. You can't even cast this. It is disgusting to watch. Dirty stuff from Griffin. No response from Cloud9, and Griffin just slammed through the door. They break down the walls. They break down the defenses of C9, and they lay a stake on a spot in the quarterfinals.
They hit the perfect blackjack against Cloud9 and now have full control of top 2 in this group. A very impressive performance from Team Griffin, and Cloud9 need to find a mental reset and also need the stars to align to escape from the group.
I mean, we've had